What's going on, guys? How you doing? Brian?
Peace.
Brian is back. I cannot believe it. We are so glad, of course, to have Brian back, and want to welcome you again to the Stingray Show. And we have a lot of guests to come today, and so I think, Brian, we need to go on ahead and get right to it. But first, I want to ask you, Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I've been sick. Had a death in the family last week before I was ill. Actually, my mom ended up in the hospital last week with pneumonia, which I felt like probably came off of the virus I had. So it's been a rough couple of weeks, and we're glad to be back here with the show. I'm glad to be back with you guys to talk some sports because we have a lot of things to cover today. SEC tournament.
SEC baseball.
SEC baseball tournament, NCAA tournament forthcoming, as well as the anticipated trilogy of the NBA Finals.
Yes.
Cavs versus Warriors Part 3 starts tomorrow.
Yes. Should be quite interesting. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to start off the show with a very special guest to talk about some of the regionals in baseball. And we're actually going to be talking some LSU baseball with a guy down in Baton Rouge. So here we go, and we are about to call him right now. Just give me a second here, and we're going to pull up Skype and go right ahead into this interview. How excited, though, Brian, are you for the baseball tournament?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a huge college baseball fan. I don't follow it that much. A part of that stems from Alabama's been horrible for a long time. And another thing is I grew up without it being on TV much. We talked about that the other day. SEC tournament, the SEC network has done a great job actually airing a lot more college baseball games. But I grew up not really not really being able to see it at all.
Yes. So, let me just go on ahead and
Hey, you guys got me?
Yes, can you put on video?
Yeah, I got you guys here.
But we can't see you.
Let's see. What do I need to do? What button do I need to push? Oh, here we go.
Yay! We have you now. That's awesome. Okay, so good. Real quick, would you explain to our listeners and viewers who you are and what you do, please?
So my name is James Harrelson. I go by the nickname Jimmy Chest Hair down here in Baton Rouge. And no, I don't have a whole lot of chest hair. That's one of the first questions that I get. So that's primarily what I'm known for down here. But I'm the executive producer for a morning show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. I also host a Thursday night show with my co-host Carly McCord down here. And I've been working for the station here for about 5.5 years.
That's awesome, man. Well, how surprised were you earlier, I would say probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, that Mississippi State actually lost to LSU in a sweep? How surprised were you about that?
You know, I was a little surprised, Stingray. Going into the series, Mississippi State had some key injuries. And so if you would have told me that LSU would have taken 2 games out of the series, I wouldn't have been surprised. I think a sweep was very surprising. But the thing about this LSU team is that they were given so much grief for all of the midweek games that they lost this season. Midway through the season, people wanted to fire Paul Maneri. And that's kind of, to give you an idea of LSU baseball fans, that's typically the attitude midway through the season. They want to fire everybody. But this team, they pretty much started clicking at the right exact time. And so, really, to me, I felt like the sweep over Mississippi State was really kind of the defining moment. And they go through the SEC tournament, and they perform well there, and they become SEC champs. So I think that the sweep was surprising. But at this point, I think, LSU is just clicking on all cylinders at the right time.
That's awesome. And let's go with the regional here for just a second. And what do you think about the regional, and how far can LSU go?
Well, I think that first and foremost, game one against Texas Southern. I mean, I think that that's going to be a win. I don't really think that there's any sort of question about that. But I mean, they've got some really good teams in this regional. Southeastern is a really good team. They're slotted at number 2. Taylor Swarner was the Southland Player of the Year, so I think that they probably pose the biggest threat to LSU.
Right.
Of course, Rice is also going to be a pretty good competition. Stingray, I think that the interesting thing I'm looking at is the weather. Right now for Friday, and I'm sure you know this because you're big on weather, but they got a 40% chance of thunderstorms
yes.
On Friday. And Saturday, it's pretty much a given. I mean, you got a 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms, and so that's going to wreak havoc on the pitching. And so going into this regional, I think that has Paul Maneri very nervous. He spoke with reporters yesterday and basically said, "Hey, we realize that the forecast doesn't look good. We're very nervous about it. They had to practice indoors, so I think that's an interesting storyline to kind of keep your eye on." There's been a lot of questions about who LSU pitches in game one. I don't think that you go either of your starters here.
Yes.
So, I mean, I would expect, maybe Caleb Gilbert, Todd Peterson, possibly, with Alex Lang going in game 2 and Jared Poche going in game 3. So I think that LSU is riding a lot of momentum. And with all that said, I have to preface this and say that typically around this time, though, we've seen LSU lose to teams that they're not supposed to lose to in the postseason. So if everything, I think, goes to plan, I think you expect LSU to get through this regional, but you can't really leave anything out at this point.
All right, and how surprised were you, though, that LSU won the SEC tournament up in Hoover?
Not really. And I think it goes back to that sweep over Mississippi State.
Yes.
I think after that sweep after Mississippi State, I noticed a very different LSU baseball team than I had seen all season long.
Yes.
And really for the first half of the season, you saw a team that underperformed to its expectations. Of course, going into every season, the expectation is to go to Omaha. But, I mean, honestly, Stingray, I really was not surprised to see LSU come away with the title at the SEC tournament in Hoover.
All right, well, let's shift gears here real quick and talk about Ed Orgeron. Because at the Mississippi State LSU game, I ran into a couple of LSU fans, and they were not happy with the overall hire of Ed Orgeron. What is your feelings about that hire?
I think that we have to give Ed Orgeron the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
And Stingray, you talked about a lot of the negative kind of reaction. I really felt like that was split right down the middle when he was hired, following the Texas A&M game last year. I think that there's a lot of reason, though, if you're an LSU fan, to be optimistic heading into this first full season under Ed Orgeron. I think that he has bought into changing the offensive mindset of the team, and that's always been really the Achilles heel for the Tigers, has been the offense. Matt Canada reminds me a lot of Dave Aranda last year heading into the defense. This team, they're simplifying the offense, okay? They're breaking it down into terms that the players can understand, and you see the players really buying into it. And from what the players have told us over the spring, they're really adapting well to Matt Canada's offense. So, while I understand that there's probably some people out there that want a big-name hire, it's understandable. I think Ed Orgeron is putting the right pieces in place on his coaching staff. And honestly, I think that that's very important if you're going to be successful. With that said, I think, LSU has a tough schedule. I mean, if you look at the schedule coming up, they have to go on the road to Florida for the next 2 years, okay? They have to go on the road to Alabama. So it's not going to be easy. But I think, again, it's going to come down to the quarterback position, which I kind of feel like a broken record. I kind of feel like we always bring that up with LSU around this time of the year. But it's going to come down to that and how that offense can adapt. And they're also going to be replacing some key pieces on defense, so there's going to be some transition there. But I think that there's reason for every single LSU fan to be optimistic about Ed Orgeron.
Okay, and what do you think the overall record should be this year? What should LSU fans think as an overall good first season for Coach O?
I'm probably going to disappoint some LSU fans here, but I would not be surprised with a 9-3 season. Maybe 8-4, but I'm kind of feeling 9-3, just because there's a lot of transition that's going to go on here. And again, I go back to the quarterback position. There's a lot of great young talent coming on this team. I suspect that you're going to see really Danny Etling be the number one guy right now. He's the most veteran player on the team. But this team still has a lot of questions. They're going to have a talented running back core. We know that Darius Guy should be an early Heisman front runner. And Darrell Williams, his backup, is actually having his best offseason. He actually he lost, I want to say, 12 to 15 pounds over the offseason. So I think you're going to see a lot of talent here. But again, I think if we're really going to see Ed Orgeron play to his or coach to his fullest potential and have his most success, I think you're probably going to need about a season or two before that to really gel, in my opinion.
Okay, and one final question. My co-host has a question for you about basketball with you guys getting the new coach down there.
Yeah, I really like this hire. Wade, Will Wade, really what he did, he came into a really tough situation with LSU basketball. The mood around the fan base was pretty lethargic this year, and that was definitely understandable. I think Will Wade really sparks that life in this fan base that is very much needed, and that's really what this fan base needs. I don't expect LSU to compete for the postseason next year. I would actually be surprised. I'd be surprised if they make the NIT. But I think Will Wade is very much the person right now that LSU needs. And I think that if you're LSU, you need to band around Will Wade. You need to be patient and understand that it's going to take about 2 to 3 years. But this is a coach that is a great, sharp basketball mind. He's young. He reminds me a lot of Doogie Howser. He's like the college basketball Doogie Howser. So I'm very much impressed with Will Wade, and I do expect him to make a splash. But he's got to build up from the ground up here, and that roster, there is some talent there, but he's going to have to do a lot of work to sort of improve things for the basketball program. But you know what? I think it's a great hire, and I expect great things from Will Wade.
Hi, James. This is Brian. Would you just quickly, if you could sum up the Johnny Jones era for us? I know it was a little bit disappointing, but do you think LSU actually waited maybe a year too long to let him go after having the number one pick in the draft and not making the postseason? What do you think about that? How would you sum it up?
You know what? I kind of, you could certainly make the argument that it was probably one season too long. I wasn't a big fan of the hire to begin with. I think for me, what really changed it for me was last season. Okay, when you had people like Ben Simmons on your team, and you decline a bid to the NIT tournament. I thought that was very disappointing. As an LSU fan, so I would say that it was overall a disappointment. But Johnny Jones is a great guy, a great character guy, and he's over now. He's over at Nevada as an assistant coach, and I think he's going to do great things there.
All right, Bud. Well, thank you so much. And is there anything that you would like to promote while you are on the show here that's coming up, or anything for you?
You know what? For all you Hell State fans out there, if you want to know how your buddies over in the SEC West are doing, just you can go online, listen to us on 1045ESPN.com every morning, and then I'm on every Thursday night with my co-host Carly McCourt.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for the time, man. And
Thanks, James.
We'll do it again some other time, okay?
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Well, I thought that went pretty well, didn't you?
Yeah, it's a good interview. I enjoyed listening to what he's had to say about LSU, baseball, basketball, and football.
Should be pretty interesting to see how Coach O goes down there.
Yeah. Well, it should. I mean, a lot of people weren't really big on the hire. You know, they first obviously went for Tom Herman.
Yes.
And they struck
Jimbo.
out.
And then
Jimbo obviously said he wasn't interested. So
number 3 had to be Coach O.
Yeah, a lot of people liked that hire, and a lot of people didn't.
Yes.
I think the fan base is rather split on Orgeron. He's a Louisiana guy. That's what he's got going for him. Played at Northwestern State.
But
so we'll see.
The Ole Miss, I mean, that was just a really bad way for him to start out as a coach.
Yeah, I think the jury's still out on Orgeron because he failed at his last job.
Yes.
If Tom Herman came in, you look at the same situation that he's in at Texas, the jury's not out on him. He did well at Houston, won a national championship as Ohio State's coordinator. People just think he's a sure bet, and he probably is. But, Orgeron is not in the same boat. So we have to see what he does this season.
Yes.
We know he can recruit. We just don't know if he can coach.
Yes. All right. Well, I tell you what we'll do. We are going to talk again about another big-time regional, and this one is actually up the road a little bit from Baton Rouge down in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. We're going to be talking about the Southern Miss regional here in just a second as I get this phone call. And check out this comment. Sexiest duo in sports broadcasting. How about that? I don't know about that, but thank you for
too much credit there.
Thank you for the comment, though. But we are going to be talking some Mississippi State and Southern Miss baseball here in just a second. With
first off, before we go to Clayton here, what did you think about how Mississippi State, your school, performed in the SEC tournament?
I was really disappointed by it, but we'll talk about that here in just a minute. We have Clayton. How you doing, bud?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Listen, for our viewers, real quick, can you please tell us who you are and what you do down in Hattiesburg, please?
Well, I'm Clayton Hall. I host a weekend radio sports talk radio show on the weekend, Fridays and Saturdays, called the Pine Belt Sports Drive here in Hattiesburg. Yeah. I also produce some women's games for the University of Southern Miss at their sister station, 1400 The Score. So that's me, and that's what I do.
And I hear that you're a Washington football fan. How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I'm born and raised in Seattle, Washington, so I'm a huge UW fan. It's never wavered, so that's my real team. But I attend Southern Miss, and so default Southern Miss fan, and I get to cover them a lot. So I've just they've grown on me.
I got you. Well,
that's what it is.
Speaking of Southern Miss, they have had an outstanding baseball team this year. Just basically, real quick, sum up the season that Southern Miss has had for us, please.
At the beginning of the season, there was a lot of question marks. We had lost a good bit of players.
Yes.
But the players have really stepped up, and it's been a dominant season, really, all season long. It has been pretty consistent. The pitching, in my opinion, has gotten better throughout the season, and that's what we got, our 48-14 record, 11th in RPI. So it's been a real consistent and offensive season for us this year.
Yes, and of course you guys are hosting. How excited are you guys and are the fans down there to actually host this year?
Well, apparently too excited, because the first day the tickets went on sale, they sold out, and all they had left was student tickets after that for today. So, I mean, they sold out the first day, and I know there's a lot of state fans that are upset about it, but I mean, you can't blame Southern for selling to the boosters first.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's go on ahead and break down some of the matchups. Of course, Mississippi State takes on South Alabama. Let's start with them first. how do you see that matchup coming up? How do you see South Alabama matching up with Mississippi State?
I think it's a dead even matchup, honestly. Both are very offensive teams. Both have played each other. I believe y'all played twice this year, and you actually split the series, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's really a coin flip to me. But I'm taking State. I'll take the favorite. I like you guys' offensive firepower a little bit more, and maybe some the postseason experience.
But the pitching is going to be the key, wouldn't you say, though, for State?
I think. Well, see, that's my key for the whole tournament is all 4 teams pitching. Illinois, Chicago. I'm not really going to talk about them much. I don't know about a lot about them, but they're sitting at 24-30, and they're in a regional, so I don't really give them a legitimate shot at winning it. But South Alabama, Southern Miss, and Mississippi State are all 3 very offensive teams. You have South Alabama and Southern Miss averaging about 8 runs a game. So I think it comes down to defense and pitching for all 3 teams is the X factor.
Awesome. All right, so let's move to the other game then. Southern Miss playing Illinois Chicago. Do you look for that game to be a complete blowout?
I'm not sure it's going to be a complete blowout because usually these small schools will have one stud that can really can pitch the rock, as I like to call it. And so I think as long as Southern Miss, as long as they pitch well and play solid defense, I think it should be a fairly easy win for Southern.
Okay, and then let's talk about possibly the Mississippi State versus Southern Miss. How do you see that one coming out if they both advance?
If they both advance, well, I'm thinking Coach will probably pitch Braley on Friday against Illinois, Chicago. Okay. I think you guys might see McCarty because I think State saw Braley and Pearl earlier.
Yes.
I don't think y'all seen McCarty yet this year. So I think we'll throw McCarty out. That'll be our top guy. I don't know what State's going to do. I know you guys are probably going to get our number 1. And again, as long as the defense and the pitching is solid, I think Southern is the favorite and should win that ball game. But I mean, State could very easily win.
Okay.
I mean, they're a great ball club.
So you're basically picking Southern Miss to come out of that regional, correct?
I think it's a very winnable region for Southern. I also see it as being a very winnable region for South Alabama and Mississippi State. I think this regional is pretty even. It's a pretty competitive regional.
Okay.
But I'm leaning Southern Miss. Here's a couple things that as to what my thinking. Our away and neutral record is 24-8. We are 11-6 against the top 50 in RPI. We're the only team with a winning record against the top 50 in RPI. In this regional. So there's a couple reasons for that.
That's awesome. All right, well, if you guys do advance, you're matched up with the LSU regional down in Baton Rouge. How do you see possibly that matchup? Because LSU is on a roll right now.
They are. And there's a reason they're the 4th-ranked team in the nation. They got that number 4 seed. How Southern got matched up with LSU is another thing to talk about. I don't know how our regional and their regional got matched up. I think we deserve a little more respect. I think we have like the 3rd best record in the nation and and 11th in RPI, and somehow we get the old Tigers who are on an absolute tear. I think they'll be heavy favorites. I don't know if we'll get past them. I would definitely have to. If I was a betting man, my money would be on Baton Rouge and the Tigers.
Okay. All right. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk a little Conference USA and Southern Miss football. How do you think the football team is going to do this year without their stud quarterback in Nick Mullins? Because he goes on and graduates. Who could potentially be the starting quarterback come the fall?
There is a kid, last name of Trigg, I believe, and Keon Howard that are duking it out. And right now, nobody's given any secrets. It's going to be one of those, I think, game time decisions in the first game on who's going to be the starting quarterback. But to me, Southern Miss is going to be a run-first team. We have Ito Smith coming back. He's rushed for 1,000 yards in the past 2 seasons. And we've been very balanced offense. So I think you'll see more of a running attack out of that spread offense that Southern Miss runs. Looking at the schedule, we play UK, Kentucky, and Tennessee in our out of conference. I'm thinking we're a 6-6 team right now. We don't know what we have. We lost a couple key players. We lost Bradley off the defense, and of course Nick Mullins off offense. I really have to see how this team plays before I can make a solid assessment of them.
I got you. And so, real quick, how excited are you guys for the Wildcats to be coming down to Hattiesburg for Game 1 of football?
It's electric. We're talking about it at the station all the time. I talk about it with Lanny Mixon at the Big Gold Nation. Of course, he's our sports director here at 98.1 WMXI. We're excited about it. I know that the Rock will be packed out. It's going to be ruckus. It's been 2 years since we had an SEC team come in. I think State came down in 2015, I believe.
Yes.
And so we're always excited to host an SEC team, especially a team that we beat the year before. I know Kentucky's looking for payback. I know they are.
Listen, my buddy here, Brian, he's my co-host. He's a big Alabama fan, and he has a question for you about UW, please.
All right. Okay.
So I know, Clayton, I'm sure you didn't enjoy the Peach Bowl that much as a Washington fan. Hey, but if I can give you any consolation, I really didn't enjoy the national championship game very much. So we both ended up on the losing end in the end. But what do you think with your quarterback? You got a lot of players coming back from Washington. I know last year you were hearing people say that, well, this team and Browning, they're a year early. What do you think? I know you did lose a couple receivers. What was the guy's name that was drafted in the top 10? Really?
John Ross.
Ross.
Left. And then we lost our tight end, Darnell Daniels. But the big losses really weren't on offense. We're going to get most of our offense back. Browning actually had shoulder surgery in the offseason. He was playing injured in the last half, pretty much the last half of the season for the Huskies. But the defense is where we lost a lot of players. We lost Elijah Qualls at defensive tackle, who was a stud, a defensive tackle, defensive end type player. And then we lost Sidney Jones, Kevin King, and Buda Baker, who were all drafted in the second round. And if Sidney Jones hadn't tore his Achilles, he would have been an easy first rounder. So where my concern lies is on the defensive side of the ball. But a couple of years back, we lost Shaq Thompson and Danny Shelton in the first round, and we came back and we had just as good of a defense. Chris Peterson is doing a great job with that defense, and he's recruited very, very well at the cornerback position for the Huskies. So, I think the defense will be there, and we'll be favorites in the Pac-12 North. Everybody's picking USD in the Pac-12, so we'll see.
I got you. All right, Bud. Well, thank you for the time. And is there anything that you would like to promote for the station down there, or even say anything to the Mississippi State fans coming to Hattiesburg?
Well, the good thing is we do carry the state ball game on 98.1 FM, WMXI, Hattiesburg. So all the state fans in the area that aren't able to attend the game, tune in to 98.1, and you'll be able to hear your Bulldogs.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much, and we'll do it again sometime. And, of course, good luck to Southern Miss down there in that regional, and we look forward to playing you guys, hopefully, later this weekend.
Hopefully we'll be duking it out for the ship.
Yep. All right. Thank you, bud.
All right. Take care.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, Brian. So, what do you think about that regional?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know a lot about the teams outside of. I have followed Mississippi State
yes.
and Southern Miss a little bit. Southern Miss just kind of in the standings. They were one of those teams that kind of jumped out to me.
Yes.
Because you typically don't see a CUSA team in the top 10 or so. Well, I don't know exactly where they finished the season rank, but they were in the top 10 when I became aware that they were having a pretty good season. Didn't know for sure if they would host, but they indeed did. And what seed was it that they have?
They're number 4 in the country, so they're a number 1, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I know they're number one in the region, but the overall seed, are they 4?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so State probably didn't come that close to even getting a 16 seed then if they're in the 4 seed. So you obviously know that Southern Miss is the favorite there to win by not so slim of a margin, but Mississippi State should be the second best team in that region.
Do you think
South Alabama would be right there neck and neck, and then Loyola Chicago would obviously, if they were to come out of that region, it would be a huge Cinderella.
Yes,
story,
absolutely.
So.
Are you picking Mississippi State to win or Southern Miss? I'm not going to hold a grudge, man. I just want your opinion.
4th in the nation, man.
They're stout.
They're stout. I'm going to go with Southern Miss, but it's not to take anything away from State. Just the games I've watched them play this year. It's hard to see them in the College World Series, but obviously the winner of this game has to win a Super Regional.
That's right, and
so
they got to go to LSU.
Yeah, and I'm taking LSU out of that whole region no matter who comes out of the Hattiesburg Regional. But if Southern Miss can beat LSU, that would be a huge
Oh, yes, for
a
them,
huge story.
Oh, God, yes.
And I think I listened to him talk. I made a mistake there. I said Loyola Chicago. It's Illinois Chicago?
Yes.
Okay, Illinois Chicago. There's 2 of those with the hyphenated Chicago names. So, okay, but yeah, I'm going to take Southern Miss, but I will be pulling for State.
Right, absolutely. Okay.
Like I said, if I'm a betting man, my money's on Southern Miss there, like he said.
Right. All right, so let me ask you this. Breaking news, I believe it was yesterday.
Oh, boy.
Tiger Woods was arrested for a DUI. Your thoughts on the Tiger Woods situation? I personally think, his career is done, it's over, and unfortunately for him, this is a nail in the coffin.
I think he was done before that. I think his career's been over since he dropped out of the last major, and he's been taking a leave. I just hope it's not his personal life coming undone now. You had a report to me. I thought he was drunk. You said it was Ambien?
Or prescription drugs,
I didn't hear about that because he blew a .00. He didn't blow as having any alcohol in his system.
So it was based on drugs, not alcohol.
Okay. Because he couldn't pass the field sobriety test.
Yes.
And obviously that is grounds for making an arrest.
Yes.
He shouldn't be driving. The officer found him asleep, had to wake him up. And, to be honest, typically this applies, but I wouldn't say in this case it does. Any publicity is good publicity.
Probably not. No.
Not in this case. But I had this was the first time I had thought of Tiger Woods in over a year. Mm-hmm. So he at least is keeping his name out there and in the news,
but it's just not good. No, and
you
were looking up earlier the last time he actually won.
2008 was the last major he won. Now he did win. He did win in I believe it's in 13. I know 13 and 14. He won a PGA.
Yes.
He won a World Golf Championship, 2 of them in 2013, but the last major that he won was 2008 U.S. Open. So that was before the infidelity and all that came into light. So he is not won a major since then. I don't even know that he'll win a World Championship again now. I don't know that he gets back on the golf course. It may just be time to hang it up. I think that really became his undoing.
How many times have we heard Tiger's back and now he's not? I mean, if
you just look here, I pull up, look at where he was in major championships. So, I'm sure you heard it in 2013 because he tied for 4th at the Masters. That same year, tied for 6th at the Open. So, 2012, tied for 3rd at the Open. He just was never able to get over the hump and win another major. So, I believe... I don't keep tabs on it, but I remember in 2013, people thought he had finally fixed his swing.
Yes.
He was coming off of tied for 40 at the Masters in 2012 and tied for 21st in the Open. So people were kind of down on him then. He dropped out in 2010 of the Open and the Open Championship. So I think in 2013 will be the last time you heard Tiger's back because he got in the top 10 in 2 major championships. And in 2013, he also did win his 2 World golf championship. So I would say 2013 has been the last sighting of the old Tiger Woods.
Yes, unfortunately.
But thanks for that question there that the viewer gave us.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, you want to talk some NBA Finals?
Yes, let's talk some NBA Finals.
Can you believe it's Cavs, Warriors
absolutely.
Again?
I could have believed it last July when Kevin Durant decided he was signing with the Warriors. This has been a matchup that we knew was coming for 11 months.
Right.
It's just like, wow, it's finally here. It's like that, when they advertised the Star Wars movie that's coming out, the big blockbuster during the Super Bowl, and you have to wait till August to see it.
Yes.
That's what this has felt like. And it's a trilogy now. We got the sequel last year. We call it what you want, trilogy, rubber match, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's here, and I believe this is probably one of the most anticipated NBA Finals in a long time.
But let me ask you this. This time next year, are you going to be tired of it? I know I am.
If we go to a fourth, I'll be like, what is this, Saw?
Right.
They're going to have 8 of them.
And I was just like, and somebody had predicted that I was talking to that we might see this for a decade. And I'm like, oh my God.
I'm going to see 10 straight.
Like the Celtics and Lakers back in the day.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't think that's good for the NBA.
Well, I think in the 80s, the Lakers and Celtics was very good for the NBA, but they didn't play every year.
Right.
You had another talented team interjected in there. Like one year, Boston played Houston with Ralph Sampson. Elijah Wan was really young. I believe that was 86. And
this year, now you don't have any good
You don't have
teams.
anybody that's challenging them.
No.
So do I think that it's bad for the NBA? Not right now, but if no one steps up next year or the next year, the Lakers could do something. If they draft Lonzo Ball or whoever and trade away some of their talent, there is a chance they could land someone like Westbrook or Westbrook and Paul George.
Right.
Somebody needs to step up, either in the West or the East.
Well, Boston was really rolling until they met the Cavs.
I knew that was going to happen. I just didn't see them having enough firepower.
Right.
Now, they do have the number 1 pick in the draft. That's one thing we haven't mentioned yet. A lot of people are saying they could trade it. A lot of people are saying they could take Markelle Fultz. And if they do decide they want to take Lonzo Ball, that would be very interesting because he wouldn't work out for them. It's become consensus pretty much around the league that Lonzo Ball does not want to be the number pick, and Daddy don't want him to either. So how do you feel about that? Do you think that he will create an Eli Manning type scene that says, I don't want to play for Boston if he's drafted?
I don't know why he would, because Boston was really, they're a perennial powerhouse. They had the big 3.
Yeah.
And, because they're a really good team to play for. The Lakers haven't been anything in since
4 years. Well, Kobe was hurt his last 2 years,
right?
So it's been about. We have to go back to 2011.
Let me ask you this, Brian: would you want to go to a team that has not been to the playoffs in the last 5 years, I think, or would you want to go to a team that got to the championship game of the NBA Eastern Conference? I don't know about you, but I'm going to Boston.
Well, yeah, obviously you would want to play for a winning team, but a lot of these guys that are getting drafted, they want to be the guy on that winning team. And when you have to go, if he goes to Boston, he's not
the star.
He's not the star. Now he could be, because I think in the long run, Alonzo Ball will be better than Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas is nearly 30. He played college 4 years. He's 5'9". Not to take anything away from him, but that's why that matchup was so difficult with Cleveland.
Yes.
Cleveland's out there with Darren Williams, 6'5".
Right.
Outside of Irving's even 6'3", 6'4". So the guards are too big for him.
Yes.
So he couldn't guard them defensively. He's going to be what he's going to be offensively, But you got guys like Markel Fultz and Lonzo Ball who are about 6'4", 6'5". They're bigger guards. So I think in the long run he would be the guy. But if he goes to L.A., he's immediately the guy.
Yes.
And he's carrying the flag for his home city. I think that's why it's such a big deal. His dad wants him in L.A., and his dad, as all of you know, LeVar Ball has had a lot to say in the media. Some things that people seem to be offensive.
Yes.
How he talked to Cowherd's co-host. I mean, what's your feeling on that? What's your feeling on how he's been so outspoken, his dad?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't think he has anything to brag about. Because did they win a NCAA title? No.
Sweet 16.
I know, right? I mean, they didn't even make it to the Final Four. So why are you bragging? Because you didn't really do anything.
It's because all the slow-footed white kids that that UCLA had.
Yes.
He said that.
I know. I was just like, whatever, man.
Man, how do you say stuff like that to the media? And one of them was Coach Alford's son. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I don't even think the tournament was like, it just ended.
Right.
And your other son's coming there, and I'm like, really? You're going to talk about the coach's son, and you have 2 more kids going to that school? Mm-hmm. You want to make sure your kids get playing time, because I heard the one that's signing next year is a 4-year guy.
Yes.
He's not as good as Lonzo. He's not a one and done. So you need to keep that in mind before you open your mouth, I think.
Yes.
But
and another thing with Tiger Woods, don't cheat on your wife, because it could really screw your career. You know what I'm saying, man? Yeah. I mean, ever since that time, he's just been
karma.
Man.
So who are you picking for the finals? Who do you like to win, and how many games?
I'm going. You're going with the Cavs, right? I'm going Golden State.
Yeah. I'm going with the Cavs in 7. I think it'll be enough. Now, if I was, this is just wishful thinking. If I was a betting man, I probably would go and put my money on Golden State. But
right.
I mean, you've got the best player in the world. Anything can happen. I'm going to go out on a limb and call Cavs in 7, just because I've got nothing on it. Mm-hmm. I don't think the Cavs can win in anything but 7. No.
Okay.
Now, Golden State, they can win in 4.
Yes.
I don't think they will because, like I was telling a friend the other day, I do not think, this is in 2007, I do not think LeBron can be swept. If he could, we would have seen that in 2015.
Right.
When he was without Kyrie and Love. Mm-hmm. They would have been swept. But he was able to get 2 games himself. If he's able to play that well, he cannot have another Game 3 against Boston, where LeBron had 11 points, I think. He cannot have one of those games. Now, granted, when Golden State's on, they're going to be on. You're going to have a game that Golden State is probably going to win by 20-30.
Yes.
That's just a given. But the games that are close, Cleveland has to win them. The ones that they're not clicking, Cleveland has to win.
And you and I were talking earlier, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that Cleveland cannot go home down 0-2 like they did last year.
Not with Durant. They cannot do, but they got to steal one. Usually the easiest one to get is the first one.
Game 1.
Why? I don't know. But it's possible to go home 2-0 and win. But likely a team as good as Golden State is going to
take one out there.
Now, you just had someone say Durant's injury prone. Now, what if someone gets hurt? That could change everything.
I know, right?
That could change everything. Obviously, we're talking without injuries being a factor.
Yeah.
But, if,
unless, of course,
Kyrie's injury prone, what if he goes down? He has the bad knees.
Draymond Green kicks somebody in the groin again. I would
think he learned his lesson on that. I would think he learned his lesson on that.
Yeah.
But, I think that I was telling someone the other day, of which series was I watching? The Spurs. Y'all remember Game 1 against the Spurs from Golden State. Kawhi Leonard got hurt, and then he came back, tried to play. and it just wasn't possible after turning his ankle. Games that you're that close, it doesn't matter. You were up 20 plus. Mm-hmm. Even if Kawhi gets hurt, you had to win that game.
Yeah.
As soon as the Spurs blew that lead, doesn't matter who's in, who's injured. Against Golden State, if the game's close, if you have a lead, you can't blow it.
No.
And I know that's easier said than done.
Yes.
Because they go on those super runs. So it's just a lot of things against Golden State are easier said than done. Like you can take, Steph out of his game, but it's hard for a lot of people to do it. That's why they're 12-0 in the playoffs.
And they were saying some of them they could go 16-0. And that'd be absolutely crazy.
To go undefeated. The closest team to do that was the 01 Lakers.
Yeah.
It was 02. I can't even remember which team it was, 01 or 02. It was against the 76ers that year in the finals. They lost game 1 of the finals, and they did not lose again. The only reason that Golden State broke their record is because this was back when you had best of 5 in the first round.
Right.
It was not best of 7 yet. So Golden State does have the record now for the best start in postseason history at 12-0.
All right, well, let's go ahead and call Matt, if you don't mind.
Our NBA expert,
correspondent. And we want to thank you guys, the 64 viewers that we have right now. We want to thank you guys for tuning in, and we really appreciate you guys doing everything and joining us, don't we?
Yes, thank you guys.
Because we could not do it without you guys.
We could, it just wouldn't be any fun.
Yeah. And thank you guys for commenting too. I mean, it makes it a lot more fun when you guys, talk and bring something to the program here. We're up to 62. It's pretty good.
You know you're calling.
Oh, dadgummit. Look at this. Talking NAB finals now. I accidentally messed that up. No, don't say that. I apologize about that. We're talking about the NBA finals, not the NAB finals. I apologize, guys. No, we did not smoke pot. We're just in a hurry. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can edit that. Dadgummit. Okay, well, we're not talking about the NAB finals. Anyway, what's his name? Matt said try back in 2 minutes. So,
okay. So let's keep going on the NBA.
Somebody
NBA
just said Cavs in 3.
Cavs in 3. Well, no way you can win in 3.
No.
It's got to be at least 4.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a possibility that Golden? How many games you say they're going to win in? 4? Sweet.
No, I think it's going to be 5 or 6.
5 or 6? Okay,
yeah.
5. So you're going with them only losing 1 game.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you? You said 7.
Cavs in 7. Who do you think is the most important player of the NBA Finals? Like who cannot afford to have a bad series on either team or both teams?
The Cavs. Because I think
who on the Cavs?
Oh, Irving.
Irving. So you think even if LeBron has some down games, Irving has to step up?
Yeah.
If he has a bad series, it's over. Okay. I'm going to go. I've said all along LeBron. He's got to go for like a triple double with a 50. 50 points in one game.
Right.
And that may be a game 5, 6, 7 later on in the series. The last 2 years he's had such a he's had to be really superhuman for them to come back and win. To even win 2 games in 15 without Love and Irving.
Kevin Love or Tristan Thompson?
Kevin Love or Tristan Thompson.
Which
I think both
one?
of them have to. Well, I think everybody on the Cavs has to be huge. Tristan Thompson, the one thing they needed him to do is get offensive rebounds. Someone said Zaza Pachulia after him. I think that matchup means a lot, which, you know, Thompson will most of the time be guarding Draymond.
Yes.
But there will be times when he's playing Zaza, and they just have to keep them off the offensive glass. And a lot of times when Golden State, they start scrambling because they take a lot of threes, they bounce way off the rim, and you've got to be able to box out. The guards have to be able to box out. Was the play dirty? I don't know. I'm not going to say it like Popovich did.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. All I know is it wasn't clean. But I don't know if I'd call it dirty or not. I didn't know him to be a dirty player, but he's kind of like that guy that you send in the goon. You know, he's good for hard fouls, things like that.
Just so you know, this is a sports show. We're not talking anything about Donald Trump or politics. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're staying way
We'll stay
away
away
of politics. So if you want politics, this is not the show for you.
Rush Limbaugh.
No, yeah, go to Rush Limbaugh. Not the Stingray show, or the Stingray and Brian show. All right.
That's the Stingray show. Are we ready to call?
Yes, call
All
in,
right.
please. You have to hit the...
That's not Matt Tynan. Does you call him when you hit video,
No,
don't you?
you hit that button. Sorry, guys. We're I'm trying to teach Brian how to work this. Matt, what's going on, man?
Hey man, I'm good. Can you see me?
I can't. No. Can you see us?
No? Yes, I can see you. Hold on a second, damn it. Golly. I don't know why I haven't changed anything since the last time we talked. I don't know why it does this.
Oh, we're all good, man.
Alright.
Hope you are.
Yeah man, how are you doing?
Good.
Y'all are alright?
Yeah, getting ready for the finals. I can't wait.
Yeah. No, I know it's gonna be fun.
Do you want to try to call us?
Yeah, give me a second. Give me a second here. Let me try to figure out what's going on because it's not giving me a camera option. So,
Okay.
Yeah, will it work if I call y'all?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, cool.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Okay,
Give me a second.
bye-bye.
All right, bye.
You all right? So we'll be right back. I do apologize about that. Yes, I do believe Steph's daughter at the press conferences. I think it adds another. I think it adds another dimension to the press conferences, and it makes it fun. So I think that's pretty awesome. And by the way, we do not smoke anything before this show, so I just wanted to let you know that. Here's a good question though: will LeBron beat the super team of Golden State?
I didn't say it in 7.
Yeah, Brian
I'm
said
thinking,
yes.
yeah,
So there
but-
you go.
Where do you put him? Where do you rank him all time if he wins, though?
I don't know. What do you
right
think?
There with Jordan?
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Jordan or LeBron better?
I think it's always going to be Jordan because, like, Jordan's like this mythical figure now. I don't think anybody can pass him until somebody wins 7 finals without losing one. That's what. It's not only if you get to 6 finals, because what can you say that? Can you say that Robert Ory's better than Jordan? 7 finals. You can't say that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, 8 finals already at 32 is really impressive. I don't know that that'll ever be done again. 7 straight. Will that ever be done again to go to 7 straight? I don't think so.
But you know,
but if he wins this one, that changes the narrative altogether. 4 titles. It's just like, look at some of the teams LeBron's had to face. The Spurs,
right?
All 3 times. Tim Duncan. You got a lot of Hall of Famers there. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and then with Kawhi Leonard the past 2 times. Granted, he was young those years, but
all right.
Yeah.
Hey, bud, what's up?
Nothing much, man. How you guys doing? I can't see you, but if you can see me,
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, we can see you. That's great, man.
Okay.
So,
It should probably pop up in my screen pretty soon, but yeah, I can't see y'all right now. Just your picture.
That's okay.
Your avatar.
All right. Well, man, how you been?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Doing good. What have you thought about the NBA up until this point since we talked last?
I think we talked last right before the Spurs-Rockets game 6 or 5, I believe it was. We talked after that epic game 5. That was the last time we talked.
Right. It was late. It was late during that Spurs-Rockets series. You know, I think honestly, you know, we talk a lot about this being a situation where it's been inevitable that the Warriors and the Cavaliers were going to face each other in the finals. I think most of us expected it from day one. But I would say that I think we were robbed of a really good Western Conference Finals.
We were.
I think that when you looked at how the Spurs were handling the Warriors, and every, you know, it's not like every game was going to be like that going forward, where the Spurs were just manhandling them. It wasn't going to be like that. But I think that really, genuinely, we were robbed of a great Western Conference Finals. You know, I think a lot of people even forget that Tony Parker wasn't in that series. You know, it wasn't just Kawhi, which was obviously the most important part. But there wasn't any Tony Parker. David Lee got hurt late in the series when he was playing really well. Not like that probably would have mattered at all. But I just think that we were robbed of a great Western Conference Finals when the majority of the playoffs were just boring. Like, there was no point to them. Even when the Wizards and the Celtics had a great series, nobody really cared about it, right? Like, it's not like anybody was really tuning in or setting their evening plans to watch the Celtics and the Wizards. But, I think that there was a situation where a lot of people were looking at Spurs Warriors and thinking, like, we really want to watch this series because of Greg Popovich, because of the way that team was, I guess, had plans for the Warriors. If you look back over the last year, no team has had the type of leads that the Spurs have had on the Warriors. Remember, they beat them by 29 points on opening night in Oracle Arena. They had a 22-point lead on them the last time they played them in the regular season, and they gave the lead up, and that's something the Warriors can do, but it's also a regular season game, so it's not like there was it's not like Popovich was throwing his guys out there for 42 minutes a night or whatever. But I just think that there was something that was left on the table in the Western Conference Finals. And look, everyone's probably going to forget about that because the finals are going to be great. But when you look back on the season and sort of the inevitability of what was to come, I think that people will sort of forget that. But I know the Spurs pretty well. I've covered them for about 6 years now. and they felt like they had a really good chance of actually beating the Spurs, whether anyone outside of the organization believes. Beating the Warriors. Whether anyone outside of the organization actually believes that, that's up to other people to decide. But there were people in that organization that felt like they could beat the Warriors, and it sort of looked like they had something for the first 2.5 quarters of that first game. But we didn't get to see it this year. Maybe we'll get to see it next year. But I think everyone's just looking forward to this to these finals.
Well, I was kind of surprised that Kawhi didn't come back. But do you think after Game 2, Greg Popovich just said, let's just pack this one in? Or what do you think? If he couldn't have him at full strength, that he just said, let's go ahead and play who we got, and if we get swept, we get swept. That he didn't want to hurt him long term. He wanted him available.
Mitch just said, look, if we don't have a full strength Kawhi Leonard, we're not going to beat them anyway. And I don't even think that he thinks like that, but I know that he wants to protect his superstars' longevity and make sure that he's okay going forward. So I was a little surprised to not see him in Game 3 of that series, but this is a very Popovich move. It's a very Popovich move.
Yeah, I had the idea that it would have been better for the Spurs, with Kawhi having nearly a week off between Game 1 and Game 3. The Spurs just went to the hotel and packed it up and forfeited Game 2 and got everyone healthy. But I'm sure the NBA wouldn't allow that, because I knew after that close game that Golden State was going to blow the doors off in Game 2. So I said, why don't y'all just pack everything back up and go home and get everyone healthy? But if Kawhi wasn't coming back anyways, it wouldn't have mattered.
Nah, it didn't matter. I mean, it's one thing to lose Tony Parker, but if you're going to lose Kawhi Leonard, you're done.
Yeah.
I missed the first part of your question, but I think I get the gist of what you were saying. It's like, it was over the second that Kawhi got hurt the way he did, and there was very serious concern for his situation, and they had no chance. They literally, I mean, goodness, I don't know how much of those final 3 games that y'all watched, but the lineups that Pop was putting on the floor were. I mean, he was he was throwing anything he could against the wall and see if it stuck. They had no chance.
Yeah.
They were completely outmatched. He was throwing a bunch of D-leaguers. Like, literally, they were playing on the court at one time 4 different D-leaguers, guys who had spent significant time in the D-League against the Golden State freaking Warriors. So there was really no chance for them. Once Kawhi went down, it was over. It was over.
Yeah, that's what I pretty much mentioned in the first part of my question, was that, when you had them on the ropes like you did in Game 1, you might as well forfeit Game 2. You knew they were going to come out guns a-blazing. So you knew when Game 1 was over, Kawhi Leonard, when he went down, and, you still weren't able to get that win, you probably knew Game 2 was going to the Warriors. And I was like, maybe they can get them at home, but not without Kawhi.
Especially the way Game 1 went. Once, literally the second Kawhi Leonard went down, the Warriors went on an 18-0 run. Because, I mean, and that's sort of a twofold equation where the Warriors are like, okay, their superstar and the best player on the court at the time. I mean, he was completely outplaying anybody on the court. The best player on the court is gone. There isn't anyone that's coming behind him to sort of reinforce the troops. Whereas, now with the Warriors, if Steph Curry goes out or if Kevin Durant goes out, one of the other guys is still there who can still light it up. The Spurs don't have that sort of one-on-one guy, the guy that can get to the hole, score a bucket, shoot from three, on his own, off the dribble, whatever. It all has to be set up. And so without Kawhi, it was a clear drop-off. The Warriors got very confident. I think the Spurs lost a ton of confidence because of how ridiculous Kawhi was in that game. I mean, he had 26 points in 22 minutes. He was essentially unstoppable at the time. So once he left, it was sort of this huge sigh of relief for the Warriors, obviously. And they're obviously fully capable of coming back from huge deficits like that. But I don't think it would have happened with Kawhi Leonard on the floor. In fact, I would have bet money, and I'm not a betting man, that it would not have happened because the Spurs were rolling in that game. Even when the Warriors came back and made a big push in the second half, the Spurs were rolling. And so once that happened, the Warriors got a bunch of confidence. The Spurs lost all of theirs and fell apart. And they held on for a while. I mean, it was they kept sort of bouncing back around that sort of 8 to 10 point mark. But man, when you're talking about the Warriors and you're talking about how much you have to score against that team, they really had no chance over the course of that final 18, 19 minutes. So it fell apart, and the Spurs were done the second Kawhi Leonard got hurt.
Well, let's move on to the NBA Finals. What are you looking for in tomorrow night's matchup in Game 1 out in Oakland?
I mean, the thing that I'm looking forward to is, can the Warriors, because there is another gear with the Warriors over the first 3 series of the NBA playoffs. I don't think they've been pushed again outside of that first half or the first 2.5 quarters of that Spurs game. I don't think they've really been pushed to the brink and where they need to be. And can they get to that point without having been pushed already during the playoffs? On the Cavs side, I'm looking at it from a perspective of Cleveland's defense was really bad throughout the regular season. Just objectively really bad. They looked a lot better during the playoffs. I don't want to discredit any of the Eastern Conference teams, but they're just not anywhere close to what's out in the West, and it's tough to measure what the Cavaliers' defense is in reality. I have a hard time believing that team can jump from being I think they were the 22nd best defense in the league. I find it difficult that they can jump from that spot to being, a top 5 defense, which year after year is sort of the measurement or sort of the barometer of your chances to win in the playoffs and in the NBA Finals. And they're going to be tested. Their defense is going to be tested by far more than it's been tested all postseason. So my thing is, I'm really interested to see what the Cavaliers' defense looks like, and I'm also intrigued to see what the Warriors' next gear looks like, and if they are able to get there in advance of these finals, like if they're ready to get to that spot, or much like a couple of years ago, if they are forced because they fall behind in the series to get to that spot. So I'm really interested to see if they get it from the start, because I believe they are. I mean, it's not exactly rocket science. I think that team was better than the Cavs last year. Draymond Green was an idiot for a long time, got suspended. I think it was a huge change in momentum, and the Cavs were great. The Cavs were great coming back in that series. And they're playing great basketball. The Cavs are playing great basketball right now. But, I mean, you're talking about a team that won 73 every game, and I'm looking forward to all of it, and I'll be, I'm sure I'll be writing about some of this. It's still sort of weird. It's like we've been expecting this the whole time. The drama is a little bit out of it, even regardless of which team wins. But I expect this to be Warriors in 5 and maybe 6. And I don't mean to jump ahead with a prediction there if you were going to ask me that, but the two things I'm looking forward to are how the Warriors are going to exploit the Cavs defense, and whether the Warriors are going to be able to, from the start of the finals, jump to the next gear that they're going to need to win this series.
I got the Cavs in 7.
Hey, man. No, I mean, look, I think it's like I can't blame anyone for thinking that way. I mean, look at what they did last season. I mean, it was incredible. And a lot of people are doing that. Like, I've been actually very surprised at the balance of picks when it comes to this final series. Because a lot of people are picking the Cavs, and I'm honestly this is my pick is sort of just my own thought process, but I understand other people's thought processes. It's going to be tough, and LeBron James is playing out of his damn mind right now. He's playing as well as he has, literally better than he has in his entire career. So you can never discount that. He's the best player on the planet, and the Warriors are still, when you look at it from the macro view, this is still their first year together, and things don't always mesh the way that they did when you had this team that sort of came up together organically. So, yeah, I can't blame anybody for picking the Cavs in this series. They're more familiar with one another. I'm looking at it from a general, overall talent standpoint and the different options available to these teams. Look, if Klay Thompson's been terrible in the finals. If he continues to be terrible, then the Cavs can absolutely win, because it sort of just blends everybody together, like very equal parts when it comes to if you're matching positions and whatnot. But I think the Warriors are just. I think the options that they have and the depth that they have, I think they're just going to be too much. And and now Steph Curry is healthy. He was not healthy last season. I think that has to be taken into account. But we'll see. We'll see. I honestly would not be surprised either way.
How otherworldly does LeBron have to be for them to pull this one out with Durant? Does he have to have a game that's like 55, 18, and 13 or something that's off the charts?
He's going to have one of those. Oh gosh, when was it? It was 2012 Boston Celtics series, where Game 6 he went for like 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 9 assists or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I think it's going to have to be something like that, and he is certainly capable. I think they are going to. I think the Cavs, much like 2 years ago when Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving were hurt, I think we're going to see the Cavs slow the pace down a little bit and put the ball in LeBron's hands, and obviously having guys like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love healthy is going to be a huge deal. And obviously having Kyrie Irving, he's going to have the ball a lot too. I just don't know how much they're going to want to run with the Warriors, because I think that's the most dangerous thing that you can do. Even though the Cavs can get really hot from three and get really hot in transition. But I think it'll be that series 2 years ago was just LeBron walks it up and in the last 10 seconds of the shot clock initiates the action. Like, he was slowing every single thing down. I think generally they're going to slow things down, but I also think that they're going to take their shots when they have them. So, every once in a while they're going to break out and try to run and get up and down with a quick pace and try to get their shots in, and rely on their talent level to make the shots and make the Warriors take the ball out of the basket rather than rebound it and kick it out to a streaking Curry or Durant and getting people all jumbled up in transition defense. I think they're going to want to take their opportunities when they get them, but that team, as good as they are, the Warriors, if you let them get loose in transition, you're done. You can't do anything about it. They have so many shooters, and not just shooters, but penetrators, guys that can finish at the basket. It's so difficult to guard that team. I mean, we talk about how good Kyrie Irving is, how good Kevin Love is, how good, obviously, LeBron James is, but the way that Golden State plays and the way that they set up their shooters is different. And when they get those open looks, when they get the extra opportunities, when the floor is spread around them, it's chaos against them. They're literally, their offense is chaos to defend. And I do not think the Cavaliers are good enough defensively to read everything that the Warriors are doing. I thought in the Western Conference Finals, even when Kawhi was out, the Spurs did a great job of defending what the Warriors were doing, and still it didn't matter. And obviously those were not superstar players. But Kevin Love is not some superstar defender. Kyrie Irving is not a good defender. Neither of those guys are.
And Durant can just shoot over the top of anybody. You cannot even win again.
That's the thing about Kevin Durant. It doesn't matter who's guarding him. He can hit a shot over anybody. So I look at this and I think to myself, man, the Warriors were good enough to beat the Cavs last season, and then they added Kevin Durant, and it seems so simple. It won't be that simple. I think it'll be a fun finals. But to me, I can't. I can't pick the Cavs over the Warriors right now, because just that Warriors team might be the single best, collection of talent that we've ever seen in the league, just in general. It's ridiculous.
All right, well, let me ask you this, because Brian and I were talking a little bit earlier. There is no way, and Brian thinks this, that it's going to be very difficult for Cleveland to come back if they go down 0-2 in Oakland. Do you agree?
Oh, I totally agree. If they go down 0-2 in Oakland, I just think it would be. They have to get one of these first two.
I think the first game one's easiest to steal. I think
it is. I think even statistically speaking, it's the easiest game to steal. Especially after this long. Both teams have had long layoffs, so if they can jump in there in Oakland and get one of these first two, it'll be. I mean, huge. If they can get one of these first two, and like y'all said, I completely agree. If they can get that first game, it makes things really, really interesting. So, we'll see what happens. If they go down 0-2, and they have to win 4 of the next 5 games against that team, Draymond Green hasn't been punching people in the nuts recently, so he's not going to get suspended. He doesn't have enough technicals to get suspended going right now. So they have to get one of these two.
Yeah, if they take one in Oakland, it's on like Donkey Kong though.
It's on, man. It's on. If they get one in Oakland, it's on.
And they can't wait till Game 5 to get one this time. That was probably the longest interview we've ever done. 40 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
But Matt, as he always does, gives us a lot of insight. I can see all of our predictions
coming out.
All that I can't see is a sweep.
Right.
I said the other day, had a conversation with a friend the other day, I don't think LeBron at this stage in his career can be swept. I can see, worst case scenario, either way, I think that the Cavs have to get Game 1.
Yes.
They have to get it. Now, would I be shocked to see them get Game 1 and then lose Game 2 and go back and lose another 2 in Cleveland?
No.
Yes. No, I wouldn't be surprised. I can't put anything past how good the Warriors are.
Right.
But, I think they've got to get Game 1. If you don't, there's an enormous amount of pressure in Game 2.
Right.
Actually, the Cavs, in these 3 finals, the previous 2, the Cavs have not taken Game 1 yet. So maybe it's this year. Maybe they'll take Game 1. The Warriors have won both Game 1s up until now.
Well, bud, I hate to do this, but we got to cut it short because I'm at 8% battery again, just like last time. But is there anything else you want to add before we say sayonara?
No.
That's goodbye in Japanese.
Yeah, I know what it is. You said sayonara, the sayonara.
A sayonara, okay.
Sayonara.
Oh, well.
All right, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, and we'll see you guys next week. Hail State and God bless.